Welcome to the Deep Dive. You know we like to go deep around here, and today is no exception. We're diving into something I know you're fascinated by, AI and change management. You even sent over this super interesting chat with ChatGPT about it, and wow, it really got me thinking.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? It feels like we're moving beyond just thinking about AI as a tool in change management. This conversation really digs into the why, It even hints at some of the broader societal impacts, which is what makes this whole deep dive so fascinating.
It really is. It's kind of like we have these backstage passes to this, high-level conference, but without the bad coffee and the awkward networking.
Uh-huh, exactly. We get to skip right to the good stuff. And speaking of getting to the heart of the matter, this conversation we're looking at, it starts off with this bold statement. It says that change management is, quote, the core of everything, end quote. Now, on the surface, that might seem kind of obvious, but when you really think about it, there's this deeper truth there, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things that's easy to say, but a lot harder to actually put into practice. So I'm curious, what makes this concept so foundational?
Well, think about it like this. Human history, it's really just the story of us adapting to change, right? I mean, from the invention of the wheel to the digital revolution, our ability to manage and embrace change has been the key to our progress. And you know what? The same goes for organizations, too. In a world that's constantly changing, the ability to effectively manage change, that's what separates those that thrive from those that become obsolete.
That makes total sense. If a company can't adapt when the market changes, well, they're going to get left in the dust.
Exactly. But here's where things get a bit tricky. The article points out this fascinating paradox. It says that even though, everyone in an organization might agree that change management is important, it can easily fall through the cracks because it doesn't have a clear owner. That's why having a dedicated approach to change management with, defined roles and responsibilities is so crucial.
I get it. It's like having a designated driver for organizational change. You need someone who's really focused on navigating those twists and turns.
Love that analogy. And it leads perfectly to the next point the article makes. The challenge of understanding context in change management.
Ah, yes, context. Seems like such a straightforward concept, but I have a feeling there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. So what makes context so important in this whole change management thing?
Well, you see, context is all about perspective, and perspectives can vary wildly within an organization. A CEO, they might see a merger as a strategic opportunity for growth, right? While employees on the ground, they might be worried about their job security.
It's like those optical illusions where you see something different depending on how you look at it.
Exactly. That's a great way to think about it. And the article, it really emphasizes the need for organizations to, and this is a quote, make a dispersed effort to understand these different perspectives. But gathering all that input can feel overwhelming, right?
Yeah, it sounds like a lot.
It can be. And that's why the article stresses the need for a strong change management foundation. Having the systems and processes in place to not just gather those perspectives, but to actually, make sense of them, integrate them into a coherent change strategy.
It's like you could have all the ingredients for a cake, but without a recipe and a skilled baker, you're just going to end up with a big mess.
Perfect analogy. And, speaking of making things clear, the article uses a really cool comparison to explain how organizations can handle different types of change. They talk about this difference between managing everyday changes in organizations and, get this, the way nature manages change organically.
Ooh, a nature analogy. I love those. So how does Mother Nature fit into the world of change management?
Well, think about how nature adapts constantly, but in these often subtle ways. Trees shed their leaves, animals migrate, ecosystems, they evolve. It's all about responding to the environment in a way that maintains this kind of equilibrium.
So are you saying that organizations need that same flexibility and responsiveness to stay balanced in a constantly changing world?
Absolutely. It's like a constant fine-tuning, an adaptation, rather than these massive shifts all the time.
So it's an organic process, like you were saying.
Right. And it helps to prevent organizations from getting bogged down in all this unnecessary bureaucracy. But of course, just like nature has, like earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, organizations also have these major changes that need a more focused, resource-intensive response.
You can't handle a company-wide restructuring the same way you'd update the office dress code.
Yeah, good point. And that leads us right into the next big topic in this conversation, the role of AI in this whole world of change management.
Yes, AI, the elephant in the room. It's everywhere these days. What makes AI so potentially powerful in this area?
Well, one of the biggest challenges organizations face, especially now, is managing the sheer volume and complexity of data. And AI is uniquely suited to help make sense of all that data.
It's like having this superpowered analyst that can just go through mountains of data and pull out those golden nuggets of insight.
Exactly. AI can analyze massive amounts of data, identify hidden patterns, provide these amazing insights that we humans, well, we'd never be able to find on our own. It can also help to predict roadblocks, identify areas where change efforts need to be focused. And get this, the conversation actually gives us a real-world example of how this has worked in the past.
Oh, I love a good example. Tell me more.
So they talk about this case where machine learning was used to analyze employee feedback, to provide these insights to top management during a major change in the organization. This allowed the leaders to see trends they might have missed otherwise and adjust their strategies based on what they saw.
Wow, that's fascinating. So AI is already being used to solve real-world change management challenges.
Yeah.
But even with all this data crunching power, I mean, AI isn't a magic bullet, right?
Oh, for sure. The article makes that very clear. Human judgment and intuition, those are still essential. Even with all the fancy AI tools we have, leaders need to be able to interpret those insights, figure out if they're reliable, and then, decide how to act on them.
It's that sweet spot between human expertise and the power of AI, isn't it?
Exactly. And speaking of exciting new developments, the conversation also touches on the rise of generative AI. It points out the incredible potential this tech has to, completely revolutionize change management, but it doesn't shy away from some of the complexities that come with it.
Yeah, that's important. Generative AI is powerful stuff. What kind of complexities are we talking about?
Well, one of the big ones the conversation highlights is data privacy and confidentiality.
Right, those are major concerns, especially for organizations that deal with lots of sensitive employee data. How does all this tie back into change management?
Well, let's say you're using generative AI to analyze employee communications, to get a feel for how they're feeling about a proposed change. You have to be incredibly careful about how you're collecting, storing, and using that data. You can't cross any ethical boundaries or, violate people's privacy. So having clear guidelines and a really solid ethical framework around AI use is going to be so, so important.
Absolutely. It's like we're stepping into this whole new world where the rules are still being written, right? And we have to be thoughtful about how we use these powerful tools to make sure that, AI is a force for good and not for bad.
I agree.
And on that note, I think we've reached a natural stopping point for this part of our deep dive.
Definitely. We've covered a lot already, but there's still so much more to talk about.
Welcome.
Our podcast duo is doing great unpacking this very interesting topic. Indeed, a good timing to take a break and enjoy the song about finding the sweet spot. That's what change management is for. Here we go. Enjoy.
We hunt for wisdom, we walk a tightrope line. Deep in our thoughts we lose track of time, chasing every answer. We think we see it all, but the why do we seek? We might lose it all. Oh, we're blinded by the light of our own mind, lost in the maze of what we try to find. Caught between the wits and the folly, taking the dances, chasing the chances. Too wise we play the fool, too foolish break the rule. In the middle there's a way, hitting the balance we won't be swayed. Augmented we stray too far, without it we miss the star. Finding the sweet spot, here we go. How to make it work, let's take it slow. Every book we read, every word we say, built a tower high, leads us astray. In the quest for knowing, we sometimes forget the beauty in the things not discovered yet. Oh, we're running in circles, chasing the sun, not realizing the race is never won. Caught between the wisdom and the folly, in this game, it's teasing the false holy. Too wise we play the fool, too foolish break the rule. In the middle there's a way, hitting the balance we won't be swayed. Augmented we stray too far, sweet spot, here we go. How to make it work, let's take it slow. When the path is dark and the map is unclear, we find our way with a heart that's sincere. Neither too wise nor too naive, just enough courage to believe. Too wise we play the fool, too foolish break the rule. In the middle there's a way, hitting the balance we won't be swayed. Augmented we stray too far, without it we miss the star. Finding the sweet spot, here we go. How to make it work, let's take it slow. So here we stand on this edge so fine, not too much of wisdom nor folly divine. In the stance of life we find our role, a sweet spot to hold, a harmony for the soul. So here we stand on this edge so fine, not too much of wisdom nor folly divine. In this dance of life we find our role, a sweet spot to hold, a harmony for the soul. Oh.
Back to the deep dive.
Yes.
Last time we were talking about this whole idea of generative AI and how important it is to have some really clear ethical guidelines, especially as it becomes more and more integrated into change management. I mean, it's like we're navigating uncharted territory here.
It really is. Like, we're at this pivotal point where the decisions we make now about how we use AI are going to have huge consequences down the line.
It makes you realize that this isn't just about, the tech itself. We're talking about tools that can have a real impact on people's lives.
Yeah.
And that brings us to something that's been on a lot of people's minds. This potential for AI to totally reshape the workforce.
It's a valid concern for sure. And, the source material actually acknowledges that. It says there might be some hesitancy about fully embracing AI in change management, especially given past experiences. Sometimes technology has made things more complicated instead of simplifying them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We've all been through those tech rollouts that were supposed to make things easier, but ended up just creating a whole new set of problems.
Right. But the article makes this really important point. We need to move beyond just focusing on those potential downsides and start connecting the dots between what organizations are trying to achieve and the broader societal benefits AI could bring.
So it's about taking a step back and seeing the bigger picture. It's not just about boosting profits, but also recognizing AI's potential to bring positive change to the world.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. AI could help us solve some of the biggest challenges we're facing as a society: climate change, healthcare, education. But to unlock that potential, we have to approach it with a sense of responsibility, a willingness to collaborate and work together.
Collaboration keeps coming up. What makes that so important when we're talking about AI and change management?
Well, the challenges and opportunities AI presents, they're just too big for any single organization or even a single country to tackle alone. Governments, businesses, researchers, ethicists, we all need to be working together to make sure AI is developed and used in a way that benefits everyone.
It's like we need this, like AI brain trust or something. Bringing together the brightest minds from all over to figure out how to navigate this new world responsibly.
I love that. And that collaborative spirit has to extend within organizations, too. Leaders need to be willing to talk openly with their employees, address their concerns about AI, involve them in shaping how it's used.
So it's about creating a culture of transparency and shared ownership when it comes to AI. It can't just be forced on people from the top down.
Exactly. And this ties back to what we were talking about earlier, that importance of having a solid change management system in place before you just jump headfirst into using AI.
Yeah, it's like you wouldn't build a skyscraper without first making sure the foundation is strong, right?
That's a great analogy. The article emphasizes that organizations need to really understand what AI can and can't do, how it fits into their strategy for managing change. That means having clear guidelines for data privacy, ethical use, and also processes for training employees and monitoring the impact of their AI stuff.
It sounds like using AI the right way isn't as simple as just flipping a switch. You've got to create this whole ecosystem to support it, make sure it's used responsibly and effectively.
Exactly. And within that ecosystem, leadership plays a critical role.
Oh, absolutely. We could have all the best AI tools in the world, but without good leadership, they're not going to be very effective. So what qualities do leaders need to cultivate to be successful in this, this new AI-driven world?
One of the most important things is being willing to embrace change, to learn new things. Leaders need to be comfortable operating in a world where the only constant is change, where the skills that were valuable yesterday might be obsolete tomorrow.
So being adaptable, having a growth mindset.
Exactly. They also need to be really good communicators, able to explain the potential benefits of AI to their employees, address their concerns, build that trust.
Because let's be real, change can be kind of scary, especially when you're talking about something as powerful as AI.
Oh, for sure. Effective communication is key to get everyone on board to create a shared purpose. And, speaking of shared purpose, leaders also need to be visionaries. They need to be able to see the big picture, anticipate future trends, develop strategies that are going to set their organizations up for success in the long run.
So it's not just about managing change, it's about leading it with a clear vision.
That's it. Leaders need to inspire, create that sense of shared purpose, guide their organizations through this period of, well, let's face it, it's unprecedented transformation. And this brings us to another interesting point the source material brings up, the potential impact of AI on bureaucracy.
Ugh, bureaucracy. The dreaded red tape. That can really slow things down.
Right. And AI has this potential to help streamline those processes, make organizations more agile, more responsive.
That sounds promising. But how can AI help us cut through all that red tape?
The conversation focuses on how AI could flatten organizational hierarchies, by automating routine tasks and giving employees more power to make decisions more quickly.
So instead of to go through all those layers of approval for every little thing, AI could handle those routine tasks, and employees could focus on more important work.
Exactly. AI could also make decision-making more data-driven, more transparent. So instead of relying on gut feelings or office politics, decisions could be based on real-time data and insights.
It's like taking some of the human bias out of the equation.
Right. But even with AI, we can't forget about human judgment. It's still crucial. We have to be careful not to create systems that are so automated that we lose sight of the human element altogether.
Finding that balance between leveraging the power of AI and remembering what makes us human, our creativity, empathy, and critical thinking skills.
Exactly. And that leads perfectly into another really important aspect of AI implementation: ongoing monitoring and evaluation.
It's not just about setting up these AI systems and hoping for the best, right? We need to keep an eye on how they're doing and make changes along the way.
Absolutely. The source really stresses this. Organizations have to be proactive. They have to identify and mitigate those unintended consequences of AI, have ways to collect feedback, track important metrics, and make those course corrections as they go.
It's like you wouldn't just put a ship on autopilot and assume it'll reach its destination with no problems, right? You need a captain and crew to monitor everything, adjust the course, and make sure everything's running smoothly.
Perfect analogy. It highlights the importance of having a dedicated team to oversee AI implementation and make sure it aligns with the organization's goals and values.
Makes sense. It can't just be a side project for someone who's already super busy, right?
Definitely not. And that brings us to another crucial point: ongoing training and education.
Yeah, we can't just assume everyone will magically know how to use these new AI tools.
Exactly. Organizations need to invest in training programs that help employees develop the skills they need to work effectively with AI. Technical skills, for sure, but also critical thinking, ethical awareness, communication. Those are important too.
Because AI isn't just about coding and algorithms, right? It's about how we use it to solve problems, make decisions, and work together responsibly.
Absolutely. And as AI continues to evolve so quickly, we need a culture of lifelong learning where employees can keep adapting and upskilling themselves.
We're all students in the school of AI, constantly learning and evolving alongside it.
That's a great way to put it. And it really highlights that using AI isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing journey, one that requires us to be adapting, learning, and innovating all the time.
This has been super insightful, but before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, we need to acknowledge that not everyone is going to be super excited about AI becoming more and more integrated into our lives. I mean, there's bound to be some resistance.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Change is never easy. And when you're talking about something as potentially disruptive as AI, it's understandable that people have concerns.
So how can organizations deal with that resistance? Help people feel more comfortable with this idea of working alongside AI?
Open and honest communication. That's key. Organizations need to be transparent about their plans for AI. Explain why they're doing it. Address those concerns in a thoughtful and empathetic way.
It's about making sure people feel like they're part of the process, not just, subjects in an experiment.
Exactly. And it's important to emphasize that AI isn't about replacing human workers. The goal is to use AI to augment what we can do, free us up to focus on things that require creativity, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence.
So it's about creating a world where humans and AI work together as a team, each contributing their own unique strengths.
Exactly. And that vision of collaboration, that's what makes this whole conversation so exciting. It's not just about the tech itself. It's about how we can use it to create a better world for everyone.
That's a really inspiring thought. And on that note, I think this is a good place to pause for part 2 of our deep dive. But there's one more piece to this puzzle. We'll be back in part 3 to wrap up this fascinating conversation. See you then.
Time for another fitting song during this break. Listen to this before part 3.
Years to pass, flicker fast, echoes clash, sparks ignite. Threads of time breaking, build, shatter, static, carrying hold. Past remix, fuse the now, force the future, take a bow. Electric heart, restless drive, we revive, we're alive. Broken beats and dreams sink in rage, pages turn, unleash the stage. Neon lights and faded scars, racing towards the unknown stars. Past remix, fuse the now, force the future, take a bow. Electric heart, restless drive, we revive, we're alive. But rewind, no pause, it's the pulse of what's coming. Relentless run, dawn chasing. Past remix, fuse the now, force the future, take a bow. Electric heart, restless drive, we revive, we're alive. We're aligned, no pause, it's the pulse of what's coming. Relentless run, dawn chasing. Past remix, fuse the now, force the future, take a bow. Electric heart, restless drive, we revive, we're alive. Future remix, amplify, boundless skies, mystify.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey, haven't we? Exploring this whole conversation about AI and change management. And, we've talked about the big picture, those potential benefits, and even some of the worries people have. But now I kind of want to get down to brass tacks. How can organizations actually make this work? Where do they even start?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right? And the answer, like a lot of things, is it depends.
Oh, come on. You're going to say that. But
No.
seriously, it can't be that different for each company, can it?
Well, there are some basic principles. They definitely apply across the board, but you're right. There's no magic formula that's going to work for everyone. Each organization has its own culture, its own ways of doing things, its own challenges. What works for one company might completely backfire for another.
Context is everything, right?
It really is.
So let's say you're starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you even begin to bring AI into a company's change management process?
Well, the first thing is to really understand the problem you're trying to solve. What are the specific things that aren't working in your change management process? Are you having trouble communicating? Is there a lot of resistance from employees? Is it hard to measure the impact of those change initiatives?
So it's kind of like a doctor figuring out what's wrong before they give you a treatment, right? You got to diagnose the problem before you can find the solution.
Perfect analogy. And once you've figured out those problem areas, it's so important to talk to the people who are actually going to be using these AI tools.
Don't just, throw this new AI system at your team and expect them to figure it out, right?
Exactly. Talk to the people on the front lines, understand what they need, what they're worried about, their ideas. Doing things this way not only helps you choose the right tools, but it also makes people feel more invested, which is super important for getting them to use it.
You want them to feel like they're part of the solution, not just like test subjects.
Exactly. And speaking of setting things up for success, we can't forget about the data. I mean, AI runs on data, right? And how good that data is will determine how effective your AI initiatives are.
Garbage in, garbage out, right?
You got it. So before you even think about AI, take a hard look at your data. Is it clean, organized, easy to access? You might need to invest in some, data cleaning and management processes before you unleash the AI.
Oh, it's like getting the soil ready before you plant a garden. You need that good foundation for things to grow.
Love that analogy. Now, once you've got that data all sorted out, you can start thinking about actually putting the AI into action. And this is where taking things one step at a time can be super helpful. Don't try to do everything at once. Start with a pilot project, maybe in one department or with a smaller initiative.
So like a test drive before you buy the car.
Exactly. This lets you test things out, get feedback, make adjustments before you go all in.
Makes sense.
And remember, even with the best planning, there will be hiccups. Be ready to adapt, make changes, maybe even switch gears completely if you need to.
Be flexible.
That's the key. Now, while we're on the topic of adapting and changing, we have to talk about leadership. Having the tech is one thing, but how do leaders create an environment where AI can actually do what it's supposed to do? Drive positive change.
Right, because you can't just drop a bunch of AI tools into a company and expect them to magically fix everything.
Yeah.
There's a human element too, is there?
Big time. Leaders are crucial for setting the tone, for creating a culture that's open to new ideas and change. They need to be the ones championing AI, and not just with words, but with actions. They have to be willing to learn, adapt, and embrace these new tools themselves.
Walk the walk, right?
Exactly. Leaders also need to encourage a culture where people are okay with experimenting, with learning new things. Create a safe space to try things out, to fail fast, to learn from those mistakes.
It's about changing that mindset. From we've always done it this way to how can we do this better? That's got to be tough, especially for companies that have been around for a while and are used to doing things a certain way.
It's definitely a challenge, but it's so important. And maybe the most important thing leaders can do is communicate clearly. Explain why they're using AI. What are they hoping to achieve? How will it help the company and the people who work there? Be open and honest when addressing concerns. That transparency in communication, that's how you build trust. That's how you get everyone on board.
It's like building a bridge between how things have always been done and this new way of doing things. Helping people understand that AI isn't something scary that's going to take away their jobs. It's a tool that can help them do their jobs better, maybe even create new opportunities.
That's a great way to think about it. Now, as we use more and more AI in change management, we also need to think about how it might impact workers. While AI can lead to new jobs and opportunities, it can also automate tasks that people used to do.
The whole job displacement thing. It's a big worry, and for good reason. So how do we make sure that AI helps everyone, not just those who are already in a good position?
That's such an important question, and it's something we need to be proactive about. Organizations have to think about how they can help their workers learn new skills, get them ready for the jobs of the future. That might mean training in things like data analysis, AI programming, or even those soft skills that are going to be even more valuable in a world with AI. Things like creativity, critical thinking, being able to work well with others.
So it's about investing in your people, not just the technology.
Exactly. And it's also about thinking bigger than just our own companies. We need to be talking, as a society, about how to make sure everyone benefits from AI. That might mean things like universal basic income, job training programs, or even rethinking how we educate our kids to get them ready for a future with AI.
It's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
But it's also this incredible opportunity to make things fairer for everyone.
That's a really great point.
And, I think that's a hopeful note to end on, don't you?
Absolutely. There are definitely challenges, but I really believe we can use AI to build a better world. It's up to all of us to make that happen.
Well said. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into AI and change management.
We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little inspiring.
And remember, the future isn't something that just happens. It's something we create. And with a little planning, collaboration, and a willingness to try new things, we can use AI to shape a future that works for everyone. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.